don't think my work is about being gay. And so I think there's been a lot of the confusion and misunderstanding of my work is by people who thought that I was writing about gays. You know what I mean? It's not about that at all. And I mean, and that's why people thought it was an indictment of like homosexuality or a attack on the gay community and stuff. And it's not. I mean, I'm gay, I write, and that's it.
People are very quick to decide, like, oh, a lipstick lesbian, you know, there were styles for being lesbians, and if you can fit through this keyhole, then you can be a lesbian today. But I think it's still the same thing, that people have a dyke idea, and are you that kind of dyke, you know? And a lesbian poet, of course, sounds like the biggest cliche in the world.
I'm David Van Chaney. Welcome to More Than a Mouthful, serving over 2 million homes and cities from coast to coast. Today we talk to two writers on the razor's edge. First up, Dennis Cooper, whose books deal with murder, obsession, drugs, and sex. His latest book, Guide, is winning critical acclaim. Coming up later on the show, we're joined by poet Eileen Miles. Her controversial poems have been described as a combination of sex and philosophy, so vivid, the sacred and profane. Swap cigarettes, have sex, and then survive to tell the tale. She's coming up later on the show, but first here on More Than a Mouthful, Dennis Cooper. I'd like to welcome Dennis Cooper to More Than a Mouthful. Dennis is the author of the new book, Guide, just published by Grove Press. Welcome to More Than a Mouthful.
Okay.
Here we are on the rooftop of the Bel Hotel, which is the scene of one of the scenes of the band being interviewed by MTV up here at this very pool.
That's right.
And what's going on off screen is what's really interesting, though.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's fair to say that and not tell them what it is. It's the scene of an MTV interview with the band Smear in your book, and it should be noted that Alex, who is the bass player, is someone who's taking advantage of him off screen at home. He's been just drugged with roofies. And
Yeah, and they're also they're actually based very closely on the band Blur, which is.
In fact, you use real names of the band members, but you've changed the band name.
That's right. It's a little puzzle.
A little puzzle, one of the many puzzles in your books.
Yeah.
This novel is the fourth in what you said will be a series of 5 novels. Your books have been noted for the tendency of the characters to kill and sexually disembowel or cut up the bodies of the objects of their obsessions. And here we are with Guide, and they're still killing and cutting up, only now Bruce Hanley of the Nation magazine is calling you vulnerable, tender, and sweet.
Well, they always were. That was the secret of them. But,
oh, really?
But yeah, but it was just less on the surface. So I think that since it's a cycle, it's like the work, it began more violent and more, you know, I mean, closed off, and now it's beginning to show its heart or something. That's sort of the way I'm heading.
And it seems to me that perhaps that you brought the character Dennis Cooper in to sort of as a device to bring that heart, perhaps. No?
Well, yeah, it's to locate me in the work, and make clear what the sympathies of the work are, which are, you know, all over the place, but largely for the people who are victimized, I suppose.
It's been said that your earlier work, the narrator was interested in carnage, whereas the author was interested in soul. The author being you.
Mm.
I mean, is that so? I just never thought of it. Well, your work is very complex. It's hard.
Well, I'm very divided. I mean, partially that's what Guide is about how divided I am. It's a big difference between my fantasy life and my real life, and I suppose Guide, if anything, is about the difference or the blur between them. I mean, there's me, who's like actually in this book, and who dreams about terrible things, but actually can't go through with it. And then there's me, the narrator, or how I present myself, and who can do anything he wants because it's fiction. So, I mean, I'm both, and I think that the Guide is partially about my confusion about that.
So then this character really is sort of you. I mean, this is sort of somewhat loosely based on you. Then I mean, that's been sort of the, you know, it's David Levitt, of course, who you know did that device in Arkansas, and he's very clear that he is not that character, or that, you know, that he won't really address it. He won't really address it. You seem a little more clear on the fact that you're willing to say, yes, there is something of me in that character.
Well, that's my mind. You know, I mean, those things doesn't necessarily happen, but I mean that is my mind working. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where it goes into description of what I'm thinking, that's all me.
Really?
Yeah.
You have a wild imagination.
Yeah, I'm afraid I do.
Whereas in real life you said you're a pussycat.
Yeah. Basically. I've become a pussycat.
Is that because you've exercised these demons through the book, through the work?
That's partially true, and I partially realized what, you know, what is interesting in fantasy and what is interesting in reality. I think I wasn't so sure, you know, for a long time, what was something that one should or could act on and what is something one couldn't act on, and all these things. So yeah, I'm just getting a little more clear about my relationship to these things I write about.
It's funny because in one of the book's characters asks the fictional Dennis Cooper about his current love interest, who is Luke, and he says, "You're not going to kill Luke, right?"
Right. Well, people always think that I'm like my books, you know. So.
And reading some of your press, there is a crossover. I mean, you in real life apparently meet a lot of younger men who are familiar with your work. And perhaps that's the only kind of people you really do meet, because you meet them at your book reading, book signings, and everything like that. So that influences your life as well. It's sort of it's this cycle.
Yeah, that's true to some degree. I mean, my work, there are a lot of younger people who like my work, and there are a lot of people my age and older who like the work too. But I mean, a lot of my world is my world is like a world that's a young world. Even a lot of my friends are younger. I mean, my interests.
You write for Spin, so of course.
Yeah,
you are
my interests are in rock music and things like that. And my basic interests, my world is basically the same world I was in when I was a teenager. It's just that I'm older, you know. And some of my friends are my age, but I do have a lot of younger friends and things. So.
Well, that's nice. It keeps you young, right?
I guess.
I am curious, and I would like to talk about this without, in your work. Why do you think you are so attracted to writing about this sex, murder, obsession, drugs, and things of that nature?
That's you know, if I knew the answer to that question, I'm not sure. You know, I mean, it's always been there. You know, I mean, before I wrote, when I was a kid, I thought about it, and I just always, I really don't know for sure. I mean, I'm sure there's some psychological explanation for it, but.
I mean, I just was curious. Is it a fascination? Is it a? You know what I mean? I mean, there must be. I just sort of curious of the background of it, the text.
Well, I don't know. I guess these things. What I really do is I write about things that frighten me. That's the things I write about more than anything. And I guess my writing is a way to kind of like stop being frightened of them. And I think that these things have always really. I said I don't know why, but these things in particular terrify me. So. I try to write about them and like try to join with them, you know, give them their power and stuff too, is a way to sort of deconstruct them for myself, just so that I won't be afraid of them. But that's usually what, you know, I don't know why I'm afraid of these particular things or why I'm obsessed with them, but I do think that there's something really important in there, and I keep trying to write and find it.
Literature critic and radio host Michael Silverblatt, who you know, says that you take the forbidden and make it art. The characters in your books are, he continues, the characters in your books are obsessed with bodily secretions of others. In Guide, Mason is mesmerized to find that Drew collects his own specimens, right. his vomit, his urine, and therefore he becomes perfection in Mason's eyes. Is that sort of, because he's the living embodiment of this? Is that fair to say?
Sure. Well, I mean, you know, he wants to understand this kid, and he's only interested in the kid's surface, and so he's reduced him to a machine, right? And so he wants all the information he can get, which, I mean, it's just a very screwed up way of looking at the kid, but that's what he does. I mean, he doesn't care about his consciousness, you know, or his intellect or anything. He just wants to know what this body can give him. So
shut up! Don't make a sound. Don't interact with me in this way.